Well, 10 years ago was the year 2000, and that was a date that seemed like forever in my mind. Now it is 2010. So let's talk about a little bit of technology and history that's come about in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, most people had computers. Now, anybody can have a computer. It's amazing the processor power, how economical computers have gotten. And the same $400 computer that you would have bought 10 years ago, it's amazing how much more powerful of a computer, and that's not even adjusting for inflation for the dollar. 10 years ago, I really was thinking by 2010, I really didn't think about that too far, but 2010, that the processors really got over like 10 gigahertz or 20 gigahertz because they had that Moore's Law going on. And what they realized was that speed didn't necessarily matter. It's the amount of chips that can do things. So now that's why you got the dual cores and the quad cores coming out and so forth. So 2010, we'll just have some more. We'll just have more cores come out. 10 years ago, I can still remember people walking around with bag phones, and around that time, it got where cell phones got to be more economical, where most people could get it if they wanted to pay it. Today, I am amazed at how much people are willing to pay for cell phones. 10 years ago, nobody text messaged, and today people do it all the time. And in a lot of ways, I kind of see that 2010 in the future, in the last 10 years, definitely will be another. I mean, the cell phone text messaging just even gets more ubiquitous, and it really is in that way right now. People don't even think they're doing it. People text message to get out of conversations and stuff like that to somebody 3 feet away, and it's just it's amazing seeing that. And you all know that I've talked about text messaging and still don't really understand it as much. But now the cell phones, pretty much all of them will have little keyboards, or they're going to have that, and then it'll probably get at some point, maybe another 10, 20 years from now, that you just think it and a message will go out in some ways. And I think we're kind of getting close to that point. Although I remember about 20 years ago, people were thinking the same thing, and we haven't quite gotten to that point on there. But 10 years ago, nobody text message. Not as many people had cell phones. And now you can buy a cell phone for $10, and anybody can buy a cell phone now. It's amazing, that technology, how that has taken off. And the internet. 10 years ago, people were using the internet. Internet was around, definitely, without a doubt. Today, think of everything that you can do today that 10 years ago you couldn't do as easily. There was no YouTube. Basically, the thought of going out and buying an MP3 wasn't there. Buying books now online, buying movies or renting movies. You can go, with the big distributors out there, you can go watch full movies streamed on your computer, and that's how fast the bandwidth has came up. At 10 years ago, a lot of folks were still using dial-up, and if they did have a DSL or a cable modem, they were pretty much restricted to a megabit. Now 6, 8, 16 megabits is not uncommon now. And basically the bandwidth is going up. So 10 years from now, the bandwidth will even get more available, as well as hard drive space. 10 years ago, you think about, you have a gig or a 10 gig hard drive, 40 gig hard drive. That was kind of standard. Now that's a joke. You wouldn't even think about it. Even installing a version of an OS system on a 10 gig system, hardly, other than the netbooks. Amazing in a lot of ways. How cheap to take, you can buy a terabyte external hard drive for $100. And this is something that I didn't think would happen, is that Firewire is no longer a major player. It's all gone to USB. I didn't think that would happen. Firewire was faster. You could power things with it. And USB was a lot slower, and now they got the specs for USB 3, so USB will even get more faster, and Firewire will go away as one of the other technologies, which I didn't think would happen. And sadly, all these camcorders are out there that uses the Firewire technology are starting to become obsolete. 10 years ago, big screen, widescreen TVs, weren't as common. Now you go buy them in any discount store now. So that has changed over the last 10 years. People now have these big 50, 40-inch, 60-inch TVs, and the thought of spending $700, $1,000 on a TV, which 10 years ago I don't think anybody would have had, been willing to do, it's now just commonplace. And I find that really fascinating as well. 10 years ago we had terrestrial TV, and now it's gone to digital. So pretty much anybody that didn't buy one of those converters on the old analog TVs, they can't use it to catch airwaves. They can still plug it into the cable, of course. And I think that's one reason why it really hadn't had that big of a deal. But you go back 30 years ago, not that many people had cable. Now, pretty much everybody has cable along with it. And another thing that's come out in the last 10 years, which I would have loved 10 years ago, is these netbooks. $150, $200 little small 2-pound, 3-pound computer that can surf the web and do email, and those things are quite amazing as well. And those prices, even 5 years ago, these prices will continue to go down. And again, these computers, it's going to get more ubiquitous everywhere. And basically, they're starting to become disposable items in a lot of ways. 10 years ago, no iPods, no really portable MP3 players. Now everybody has them. Probably most people have multiple MP3 players. And that thought of wanting to carry around your whole music library is no longer a dream or a fantasy. And I remember seeing on Star Trek, basically you talk to the computer, I want to hear this song, this song. Well, today, with the internet, that's definitely reality. And not only that, you can be where there's no internet and still have your music on an MP3 player. So that came about. And now, with the iPhones and the iPhone and iPod touches, you basically got the access to the world in the palm of your hand. And they did have PDAs back 10 years ago. Now, this didn't quite work as well. And now, basically, you can do most of your computing on an iPhone or iPod Touch or any other small little pocket computer, phone computer, basically. And I find that fascinating. Wi-Fi. It's another thing that has caught on. Everybody, 10 years ago, if you built a house, everybody said, well, put Ethernet cables in your house because you want to be able to have computers in multiple rooms. Today, all that's out the window because of wireless internet, Wi-Fi. And it's going to get, and over the next 10 years, I feel that Wi-Fi will be everywhere. That it'd be just like, you go any major city, any place where there's a population, there's going to be wireless internet for you. And we got so connected to having the internet there that I think it'd be would be insightful to think that Wi-Fi wouldn't be anywhere. I remember one time I went to this one meeting and the person was from network and said there's no reason to have wireless internet. It's slower, it's not secure. And I raised my hand and said, listen, within 5 years it's going to be Wi-Fi, and it didn't even take that long. I mean, Wi-Fi just blew up all over, and practically everybody that has a laptop is going to have wireless internet in their house. So that's another amazing thing that's happened as well. And there's so many other technology things that have come out. I mean now, honestly, as long as I got a guitar and a laptop, man, sky's the limit for me. I can make music, I can make videos, I can watch TV shows. I mean, Hulu came out, and pretty much all the other channels have come out where they stream their content. You can read things, Wikipedia, that's another thing. 10 years ago, Wikipedia wasn't around. Now we have that, and that's a resource. And even though a lot of folks in academia don't think it's a valid source, it's a valid source. If you get that many eyeballs on something, it's pretty valid, and and if it's wrong, it can be fixed instantaneously. And anytime that happens, you go and see that as well. So, anyways, I can go on and on and on. There's so many other technology things that will happen 10 years from now, and if you think back 10 years ago, how different you were and how different you were using technology, I predict that most of you all are tied to your cell phones. that you can't even leave the house without your cell phones, that you talk on the cell phones while you're driving to the place you're going to, and when you get to the place you're going to, you're text messaging people there. And one little social commentary on that is that I think people just don't want to be alone, man. I don't really I will say this. You are at your most creative a lot of times when you have time to think. And when you go out, sometimes it's nice to be away from the world. Oh, what if something happens? Well, what if something happened 30 years ago? And if you leave your cell phone at home, if you need to borrow a cell phone, everybody and their brother has a cell phone that you can borrow. Sometimes it's kind of good just to walk away from technology. And as much as I love technology, I want to always remember the humanity that we have. And that's one thing I think that on Star Trek, you go back 40 years ago, that Dr. McCoy was always trying to maintain, with all that technology and wonder they have with the transporters and medical devices and the phasers and all those things, he always remembered that inside we're human beings. And the humanity that we have is more important than the little text message you send out or the phone call or content that you make for the internet and so forth. Humanity. And I still got hope for humanity 10 years from now. Thank you. And as always, rock and roll, and we'll see what happens in another 10 years from now. I guess I'll do one in 2020 and see what happens at that point there. And I'm sure it's going to be in high def and maybe even 3D. Wah.